You buy a survival game about ocean wonder, only to get ambushed by legal homework before your first dive. Subnautica 2 is not being attacked because it is a bad game. Players liked it enough to read the fine print. Because if this is normal, your library is full of trapdoors, and you stepped on the biggest one. Steam shows positive reception, so this is no flop story. Reports said launch crossed 2 million copies within 12 hours, which turns this into a mainstream problem. The timeline matters because the huge launch came first, the positive reception came second, and the EULA backlash came third. Normally, that would be the whole story. Instead, the argument started at the door, where players found legal sludge waiting for them. Nobody needs law school to understand why that feels wrong. Gamers came for bases, alien fish, oxygen panic, and Subnautica magic. Krafton handed them contract language, privacy rules, content limits, and fog. Honestly, that is the story. The result is simple. Distrust arrives before the loading screen. Underwater wonder sits on one side, legal sludge on the other. Viewers should not be told this is random outrage. Complaints appear in reviews, threads, and coverage, not in one angry corner. Timing matters because this is a beloved sequel built on community trust. So, let's separate the facts from the fumes. What is confirmed, what players claim, what defenders excuse, and why standard has become gaming's ugliest word. Panic bait wastes time, but corporate excuses waste it too. Confirmed, the game is doing well, so the backlash cannot be dismissed as failure noise. Claimed, players believe the EULA reads as restrictive and hostile to ownership. Disputed, defenders argue some language is standard across digital games. Important, standard does not mean consumer-friendly. First, ownership is the easiest mainstream point. Publishers keep telling customers they are buying licenses, not software. Legally that may be normal, but it is not comforting. Consumers hear buy, then paperwork whispers permission. Suddenly the store page feels like a vending machine selling temporary approval. Broadly, Subnautica 2 did not invent that system, but it arrived during a moment when players were already angry. Players are nervous about shutdowns, delisted games, bans, and purchases turning to dust. Notebook Check tied the backlash to ownership and access concerns, helping it travel beyond the core fanbase. Average viewers do not need clauses memorized. Everyone understands paying money while the product feels owned by someone else. Second, the content creation angle is a PR-owned goal. Commercially, Subnautica grew because creators screamed, built bases, and sold the fantasy. Streamers and YouTubers are not a side issue here. Their footage is marketing for a game built on surprise. Then players pointed at terms restricting recordings, screenshots, streams, uploads, and disclaimers. Whether every concern survives court is not the point. Optics matter before law matters. Creators do not want a permission ritual before posting gameplay. Audiences do not want an ocean game wrapped in legal homework. Cynically, Krafton might say this is standard protection, legal coverage, and corporate cleanup. Fine, but that defense sounds terrible out loud. Saying everyone does it is no innocence. Basically, the industry is admitting every basement smells bad. Worse, it is not just about what you can show on camera. It is about what the game is looking at while the camera is off. Third, this is where the standard defense starts dying in public. Most people ignore a EULA until it sounds like the game wants a passport, a fingerprint, and a peek behind the curtains just to view a digital fish. Once players see personal information, device data, IP address, third parties, VPN restrictions, or remote access, things change. Practically, nobody needs 20 pages to feel suspicious. Parents understand it. Teenagers understand it. Casual players understand it. Privacy is no longer some niche forum obsession. After years of apps, launchers, tracking, and brokers, players learn to flinch. That language hits harder inside a survival game built on trust. Maybe some clauses are boilerplate. Quietly, some users may be interpreting worst-case scenarios. Intent does not need to be evil for trust to take damage. However, the publisher owns the communication problem. Ironically, players do not see a legal document. They see a no trespassing sign on a game they already paid for. Customers experience it as a forced gate before the game they paid to play. And if you think the EULA is just boring fine print, wait until players call it a key to their digital door. Deeper, the real irony is not the law. It is how this contradicts the game itself. Now, if this sounds like nerds screaming into a void, look at the storefront. Storefront receipts are piling up, staining what should have been a victory lap. Naturally, Subnautica 2 is not collapsing. Visibly, Steam still shows positive reception, and coverage framed the debut as huge. Clearly that means this is not a flop autopsy. Actually, it is better than a flop story, because hits expose industry behavior better. When a bad game gets attacked, companies blame quality. Realistically, when a good game gets attacked over paperwork, the paperwork stands naked in the spotlight. Structurally, this should be framed as a trust story. Big hit, beloved brand, strong player demand, ugly contract vibes. Those ingredients create a better video than game bad, internet mad. Fourth, defenders accidentally make the cynical argument stronger. Some players say these terms are typical and most digital games include similar protections. Technically, they may be right about the pattern. Strategically, that is not reassuring. Compare it to a restaurant defending dirty cutlery by saying everyone does it. Congratulations, you did not save the restaurant. Historically, instead you indicted the neighborhood. Modern gaming reached the point where the defense is basically, relax, this legal headache is everywhere. Such a sentence should scare people more than the complaint. Standards can be bad. Common practice can be anti-consumer. Boilerplate can still be poison when everyone is forced to drink it. Fifth, the early access label adds another layer. Financially, Subnautica 2 is not a finished product handed over with a bow. Early access is a first date where the other person brings a prenup and a liability waiver. Simple truth here. Paying for an unfinished game is betting on the developer's word. Operationally, players accept bugs, missing content, and promises through trust. One hostile-looking agreement damages trust before the first patch note. Although the game is fun today, the contract shapes what players fear tomorrow. Could access change later? Obviously, content rules could change. Frankly, data rules could expand. Seriously, community creators could feel unsafe building hype. Questions matter because early access is a handshake with a download button. If the handshake feels like a trap, people notice. Sixth, Krafton cannot be separated from the mood around this launch. Arriving after public fights over Unknown World's leadership, delays, bonuses, and lawsuits matters. Fans had reasons to watch the business side with suspicion. Therefore, the EULA did not land in a clean room. Ultimately, it landed in a room full of side eyes. Additionally, when a publisher looks corporate heavy, every strict clause feels louder. Fairness may protect every lawyer who drafted the document. Nevertheless, public trust is not graded on lawyer effort. Public trust is graded on how the whole situation feels when the customer hits agree. Seventh, the comedy is obvious because Subnautica sells the opposite fantasy. Gameplay is about being small in an ocean, building shelter, scanning life forms and managing oxygen. Consequently, the real fear comes from a contract page. No Leviathan is required, because the scary thing is already on the screen. Scroll downward and the boss fight begins. Likewise, that is the joke, and it writes itself. Survival is not about oxygen anymore. Otherwise, it is about patience. Hostility is not under the water. Anyway, it sits somewhere between license and third parties. Noticeably, that is why the rant works. Humor works because the subject is funny, but the issue is real. Eighth, let's be clear. Krafton is not trying to steal your soul through coral. Framing it that way would be lazy. Better point, players are reacting to language they see as restrictive and hostile. Bad wording does not need a villain to become a problem. Fairly, the position is not Krafton is evil. It is players are right to question hostile terms. Coverage confirms reviews focus on EULA concerns, content limits, privacy fears, VPN language and remote access. Fundamentally, Steam confirms the game remains broadly liked. Launch reports confirm it sold extremely well. Together those facts make the backlash credible without pretending the game is dead. Ninth, the real target is industry normalization. Every year customers get more accounts, launches, conditions, data and less ownership. Bluntly, publishers call it standard. Predictably, players call it exhausting. Suspiciously, reviewers call it controversy. Awkwardly, lawyers call it protection. Meanwhile, the fish game buyer is staring at terms like he accidentally joined corporate training. Conveniently, Subnautica 2 is only the latest example because it made paperwork visible. Smaller games can hide bad terms because nobody reads them. Officially, huge games cannot hide when angry players turn the EULA into the boss fight. Even if you skip Subnautica 2, the same logic can sit under another game. Momentum survives because the story has legs. Success combines with a wider fear everyone already has. Digital ownership feels weaker every year. Unofficially, privacy feels thinner every year. Creator freedom feels more conditional every year. Sadly, customer patience feels closer to snapping every year. Instantly, Subnautica 2 did not create that anxiety, but it gave it a perfect underwater mascot. Crucially, this works because the evidence stack is simple. The hook shows the contradiction. Beloved ocean game, suspicious agreement. Context explains the launch was massive. Evidence shows negative reviews and threads pointing at the same legal themes. The breakdown turns clauses into normal language without legal cosplay. The roast comes after proof, not before proof. The ending lands on the bigger pattern. Publishers keep shrinking ownership while asking customers to stop noticing. Nothing needs conspiracy music, because the facts are already insulting. Mainstream viewers will get it, because the complaint is not technical. They understand buying something, opening it, and being told their purchase is conditional access surrounded by rules. Emotional gaps drive the video, and that contrast should stay clear throughout. Keep the tone cynical, but keep the spine factual, because this story is strongest when the receipts do the punching. Proof should come first, then the joke, then the warning players remember afterward. Final verdict: the game may be good, but the contract is the jump scare. Angry players are not crazy for reacting to that. Perhaps some clauses are normal. Overstated fears may exist. Yet when normal looks anti-consumer, the problem is not the backlash. Warning: this is clearly not Never Buy Subnautica 2. Look at what the industry calls normal. Tomorrow, when a publisher says you agreed, remember they counted on you never having a real choice. Finally, the jump scare was never under the ocean.